Hello, my name is Lilo Siegel. Welcome to my tutorial all about easy sewing. Today I will show you something totally extraordinary. From many little leftover pieces you can make a nice pocket. Maybe for your children's clothes, or a nice summer dress, or a summer overall. I'm sure you will think of something nice for this very, very unique pocket. Let's start right now. To do this fancy pocket, you need your main material, maybe some leftovers for testing it first instead of putting it right away into your garment. You need 2 pocket linings and several little welts. The pocket lining, as you can see, I've done already in 2 different materials in 2 different colors. You will see later on why we need this. Then I prepared several little welts or stripes of material. I cut them in 18 centimeters length and 5 centimeters wide. Of course, this all depends on later how big, how wide you would like to make them yourself, but this is the size I've chosen for this particular pocket. So I've ironed them over, but not evenly. I have 2 centimeters on one side and 3 centimeters on the other side. I prepared 4 color ones and 3 in an unicolor in the pink. You also need a big facing piece, which has to be the same width as the welts, as the little stripes that you cut. We start sewing the pocket by picking up the facing piece, which, as I said before, is exactly the width of the first welt that we will put on. And on the top you can see I already ironed about 1 centimeter over for later on to finish the pocket very tightly off. So we take this first welt and decide in which position above the edge you want to put it. I've decided I want it 2 centimeters above the cutting edge to lie on. The 2 centimeter ironed over piece is on the bottom, the 3 centimeter piece on the top. So 2 centimeters I had left over on the bottom, as I said. I put it even on the edges and I stitched the 2 centimeter ironed over piece on first. You check it again. You can also measure that if you want to be very exact. I'm doing this by eye, but you can always take your measure tape and check it. Now you stitch this side tied down and you take the next welt piece in the other color because I like to have this contrast happening. Again, the 2 centimeter ironed over one is on the bottom, the 3 on the top. And you must make your decision now. How wide do you want this contrast to show over? You can make it very tight, like just a 3 millimeters standing over. Then you would take your next piece in the other color, do it exactly in the same width, just 2 or 3 millimeters. Of course, you can also say, no, I want this much wider. I want 1 centimeter or more or less. But then you have to consider and cut the width of your welts bigger or smaller. I've decided it should be a 7 millimeter overstand. So you can measure this, or the way I do it. I have quite a good eye on this, so I just lie it down with the 7 millimeter of the contrast standing over. But you can check, as I said. After I've lied it exactly down, I again flap my 3 centimeter ironed over piece down. It's up to you if you want to do a backward stitching there, but it's not really necessary as it's been held so many times later on. And you just go on a 2 millimeter stitch along that edge. And already you can either put the next stripe on in the width you decided on, or you say, no, there's too many materials here lying that are not on well yet. Then you rather take it away and you stitch this one down. If you have materials that start pushing and don't want to lie flat, as I always suggest, you can take a pattern, put it directly onto your needle and let the foot and the needle go along this pattern, and you will get a very flat, nice seam done. Then you take your next piece again. In the width you put it on as you decided, in my case 7 millimeters that I want to have shown with this welt underneath. I check it again, lay it nice and flat, flap this part down and just stitch it on so it's held. And now you can see already which little effect you get with just putting those stripes of material above each other on. And again, I take my pattern, lie it down, because I do not want any pushing or pulling on this pocket. I want it nice and flat. Here we go with the next stripe to put on. 7 millimeters distance. Check it or measure it if you wish. Put it under your needle, under the machine, and just stitch it on. There you go. And here's the next one. We take the pattern, go along, and it's finished. Here comes our next contrast welt. Again 7 millimeters. I've done this all evenly, but you decide on your own if you want it like that. You can always change any widths. So again, we're stitching this on. You're checking or you're measuring as you wish, and doing this nice little fancy pocket. And you can see it's all clean. There's no seams standing over. You do not need to do any cleaning off with a zigzag or a machine or anything. It's all clean inside already. So we take the next stripe, we stitch it on. Checking is always important, no matter if you do it by eyesight or if you take your measurement. Now, of course, you can stitch the last one down again on the top. Or you can also, if you don't want it so evenly, you can have it on one side wider and on the other side smaller, as I just shown. All up to you. So the bottom one I did not stitch down because I want to show to you that you can also do this in one go. I just put this one on top and I just do one time stitching down for the underneath one and this one. And this last one that I got here, I of course stitch that down. That's important because it makes it easier for the next step. And now you see why I ironed the top of this material 1 centimeter over, because this will be my finished edge for this pocket. If your material is very soft, of course you can also in the inside put some interfacing down there first, which will make it more firm, of course. Now there's only for this preparation one more stitching to do, and that's along this top line, which will be the finished top for our pocket then as well. Check again the widths that you wish to have. If you do not have the eye for it, then measure it again, as I always say. And as this is very loose up here, I definitely work with a pattern, put it on the under the foot exactly onto my needle, but not stitching into the pattern, and I stitch this down. And now you can see how lovely this little thing looks. The next piece I need is my pocket lining. You can decide now how high do you want this, exactly where you want to put it on. I decide that I have 1 centimeter standing over on the bottom. My sides are even, but this stand over on the bottom is later on very good for finishing off in case if you want to go along with the overlock. Of course, when you see this this little pocket, you also would have had the chance to say, I just iron the 3 sides over, and you could have just stitched it on anywhere. But this is not the idea of my pocket for today. So now I stitch it on with this 1 centimeter of the pocket lining standing over on the bottom, and I just go in the width of my foot once around it. On this side coming up now, as the material the foot would push the material up, I again use my pattern. As there's also so many materials, it holds it nicely down, so it makes it so easy to stitch that on. Now you see, this is practically a finished pocket already, but we are not quite finished yet by the idea that I had for this one. Now you have to take your main material and the extra facing piece that we had. You must mark the position where you would like to have this pocket, and you have to mark a square on your little facing piece, exactly measured out for this one, that you have enough standing over for finishing off inside. So I marked already my square onto this facing piece on, and now you have to stitch once all the way around. If you have a material that likes to push, then use a pattern. You can make a pattern exactly the size and go all the way around, or you can just use any little pattern that you have, hold it under the needle onto the edge and go around. And it doesn't matter where you start, just start anywhere. You don't even need to go back and forward, because I always rather like to just put another extra stitches over my first ones that I started with. It holds just as well. As you can see, I show you again. Here you can put your pattern next to the needle underneath the foot and go along. But as I got some interfacing on the back of my main material, it doesn't push so much, so I can just do it without the pattern in this particular case. But all depends on which kind of material you're using. And at the end, just go these 2-3 millimeters over, and it's held very well. And now we come to a part that some people don't like to do. Put a big hole in this. 1 centimeter towards the inside you leave standing over. You can also leave 1.5 standing over as you wish. That's not so important, but it should be at least 1 centimeter. And you got to cut the whole square inside out, and then do one cut exactly onto your last stitch in the corner. But make sure not to cut that thread through, because then your pocket will open up. That's not going to be clever then. Use some good scissors, so you can use the front of the scissors and just with one cut go onto that last stitch. It's not good to use any scissors that wouldn't be sharp enough to do this job. Of course, you can also just cut the square out first on its own and then do all the 4 corner pockets. That's our leftover that you can throw away unless you need it for something else later. We will iron this in a moment, but first of all, to make even my ironing easier, I will stitch down this facing piece that I got left over towards the inside, just on 1 millimeter along that edge, so it's nicely light down. You do not have to start on the first and end on the last stitch. It can be a couple of stitches away. You do not need to go back and forward with the machine. Just stitch it so it's down to make your ironing so much easier. As you can see, it's already light flat in that area, as if I would have ironed it. So then you have to, as soon as you've done all 4 sides, you will just fold them over to the left side. And you can see by stitching against this on the facing piece, it already lies really nicely there. But now we go to the ironing board. That's what my cutout looks now. after I've ironed it nice and flat, and you can even now see my stitch that I put against it on the cutout facing piece here. And you see it's a nice open square for me to lie my pocket under now. Pull it exactly in the square how you want it. There you see the overstand that I got, because you need the centimeter underneath to cover the cut edges. And decide exactly in which position you like to put it. There you see we got enough space underneath to later on clean off the edges. Check all sides that you have the same amount material underneath standing over. And you can put some pins in now. I do not often work with pins, but in this big square I like to use at least 3 pins. First one I put in, now I check again that I'm in a right angle everywhere. I put another pin in the next corner. And you see I got quite a big opening on the top there. Of course you could have put that edge directly onto the pocket edge, but that was not my idea. I wanted to see this nice colorful flower piece open, and it gives an extra effect anyway. So a third pin I will put in this corner. And beware, whenever you work with pins, make sure you do not stitch with your needle from your machine over those pins. Pull them out before you stitch over, otherwise you always kill a new needle that you might have just put in your sewing machine. So 3 sides are pinned down. I look at my product again, as that's how I want it. And then I will start sewing on the corner where I did not put a pin in. I will not stitch back and forward, as I rather go over again 2 or 3 stitches when I get around the corner then later on. And as this is so many materials now lying underneath, I will definitely work with my pattern again this time. I of course put the first stitches in to hold it down, to keep it firm. If there's anything I don't like, I just look at it again properly. And I take my pattern now, put it under the left foot, keep exactly the space and the width I like to stitch it on, and go along the bottom line of this pocket. And if I wouldn't have used my pattern now, I could maybe already now have a little leftover material which would push me out of the corner out, and I definitely don't want that. I pull the first pin out, I do not want to stitch over it, and I go up the second side. Check again, put it flat down, put the pattern under, and it goes nice and easy up that edge. As if you had 10 pins in that edge or better if you work with a pattern. Before you get up there, in case if your pattern is covering the pin, then look again to make sure you're not stitching over. Now I pulled it out already. I'm on the top of the pocket and I use my pattern again. As you can see, it's so easy to do it that way. And this is such a lovely pocket to put in your children's clothes, or for a summer blouse, summer dress, or even on some jeans. It really peps it up. Everybody will say, where did you get that from? My last pin is out as well, and I only got one more side to stitch down. Just put the pattern there. And you have a nice little happy pocket, as Bob Ross would say to his pictures. You probably know him. I love him when he does his paintings, or did used to do his paintings. So just another stitches over my first stitches, and they're held down. If I have another little start for my thread hanging there, I cut it off It's nice and tidy, it's clean. And on your left side, you can see you got enough left over, seam standing over, to either go around with your zigzag scissors, your zigzag machine, or maybe you even got an overlock and you really clean it off very tidy. Really nice. Well, all you have to do now is look for some leftover materials, decide where you would like to have a pocket like that, and start doing it. And just enjoy it. And I hope to see you soon or latest next time again. Bye, yours Lilo.